Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussions, news, and interviews, presenting The Film Scene with Illeana Douglas. Illeana is an actress, writer, author, and film historian with a need to discuss movies that borders on obsession. You'll learn the history of movies, one great story at a time. The Film Scene is the deep cuts of movie podcasts, featuring movies we love by the people who made them. And now, Illeana Douglas.
Why, hello everyone, it's Illeana Douglas. Welcome to the Film Scene. I'm here with Jeff Graham. He's sitting on the couch.
I'm couching it today.
Couching it off, but you'll be very vocally involved.
Of course.
And a good friend of the show, Matt Oswalt, is here.
It's great to be back.
I know, this is your third time. You've been here more than anybody.
I'm the George Gobel of the film scene with Illeana Douglas. I'm just that guy that you call at 1:15. Matt,
that's true.
My guy dropped out. Can you get over here? Yeah, all right, what the hell?
You've provided us with some fantastic guests, and a lot of them.
I have, haven't I?
Yeah.
And I've asked for nothing in return.
They may say they have more respect for you than
After
for
all
me.
I've done for this show, I come here today and she's got eggplant garlic salsa for me.
Well,
Is that a slap in the face or what?
I had
Jeff,
peanut butter.
We have some
It's homemade.
some Buddy the Elf easy bake cookies back there too, if you'd like them. So you're welcome.
Yeah,
Matt.
we've got cookies.
Okay.
Yes.
That's not
chips
bad though.
and
Yes.
chips.
Okay.
All right, let's get to the point of why you're here. This
Yeah.
is so exciting. This is your book, Liquor Stores and Detours. I'm going to hold it up here.
Yeah.
It's so fantastic. I've been flipping through it, and you've been out there selling it. It's going to make an amazing Christmas present for people.
Oh, it is. It already is.
And what is
Kwanzaa, Hanukkah,
Ramadan.
It all.
Boxing Day.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's not forget Boxing Day. But for anyone who loves movies, they will love this book, Liquor Stores and Detours. Now, first of all, it's already funny. How did you come up with the title?
Because Tom Cruise already stole Cocktails and Dreams. You know?
It's perfect. But the book so it's got pictures, which we're going to sort of show as we go along. I mean, there's so many great pictures here. I want to hold this up.
Hold some up for the love of God.
I want to hold it.
You're
like a
holding
great
them towards you. And
Edward Hopper.
Look at that, huh? Yeah.
Modernistic. But here,
People have said that. It's Edward Hopper and a little Bukowski. It's
And so
grimy liquor stores at night. It's,
But it's so much more than that. So it's these fantastic pictures of liquor stores, which, again, L.A. is kind of known for these great 50s, 60s neon signs.
And for some reason, they've endured.
Fonts.
They've endured. They're still
beauty.
around,
There's another beauty. But what is great...
Ringside Liquor. Yeah, it's a great one. That's
is
one of my
that...
favorites.
And we were saying this before the show. Oftentimes, you look at an art book, and underneath there's footnotes, and it's a little hard to understand, and you begin to feel like you're in a museum. And what you do is you just make it funny. You make the comment that you may have missed, Ida Lupino coming out of somewhere. Here's another great one, Vineland.
It's down the street here.
This is right down the street from us.
Vineland, and then the great Alex Liquor.
And these are great. And you've been collecting. How long did it take you?
About a year and a half. It sort of became a thing when I got my camera. I went out one night, was messing around, taking pictures, and I snapped a picture of a liquor store out in the valley, and it had this like noir quality that I really liked. Just like the neon against the black sky, and I just really dug it. And so I started.
Great ones.
As kind of a hobby, I just started taking photos of liquor stores, and there's so many in LA to choose. I mean, they're everywhere. There's like every block has its own little like unique mom and pop, liquor store with a dried blunt stain on the floor, and old Zagnut bars that go back to 1952. And
this one's called the Jolly Jug.
That's out in Northridge, yeah.
And then what's great is that next to it you have a whole little story.
Yeah.
That might go along with what you're getting.
What could happen there. Yeah, a lot of them have stories that are. Some of the stories are funny. Some of them are really depressing and sad, and some are noir. Some are autobiographical. Some of them inspired me to write about my own life a little bit. So,
which is great. Well,
and they just kind of go from one to the other. There's no order to them. They just go. They just so you laugh on one page, cry on the next.
This one's very interesting.
Yeah, that's a contrast.
This one was you took the picture. This is very Californian. So this is the same if you can see it.
Yeah, one was taken on a clear blue a clear night one summer, and then a couple weeks later, this giant forest fire hit Malibu, and the entire sky just turned this really dark brown, and the contrast is kind of amazing.
So when you were going around doing these, did you obviously, did anyone sort of get, why are you taking a picture of my leg? Are you robbing them?
There's actually a story when I first started doing this. I went on, ironically enough and appropriately enough, it happened on Van Nuys Boulevard, where a guy that I was taking a picture of his store got really angry that I was taking that was out front on his property, and he wouldn't turn his light on for me, and he started screaming at me, and I'm convinced it was some sort of I had discovered a sleeper cell, or it was like one of those like Pulp Fiction places where the gimp's under the table. Something was going on in there, but he was not happy that I was like taking a picture of his store. And there's a whole story about that in the book too.
Oh, great!
But that was the only time that a guy truly almost like murdered me because I had the audacity to take a photo of his store.
Always Van Nuys.
Yeah, always on Van Nuys Boulevard.
Yes.
Nothing good happens on Van Nuys Boulevard.
No.
But most of the other people were really cool. In fact, a couple of them, you'd go up there at 4:45 when their light's still not on yet, and you just go, hey, could you flick your light on? And they'd happily do it. And they were the nicest people ever.
You know what I was thinking is so nice, because so many times, people say L.A. is, an ugly city, and
Who says that?
So many people.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, the sprawl of it, and you have to kind of go through the nooks and crannies to find the little great architecture, and something like this is so cinematic, and so I think it must have given the owners sort of a great pride.
I would. A couple of the
like,
owners.
you think my place is artistic?
Yeah, you wouldn't think that. A couple of them actually contacted me on my website, and I got them prints of their store in there.
Cool.
And they now hang in their own store, and they're proud of them. So
This
good
is
for
a
them.
great one. It's black and white. It says, I'd love to tell you this guy in perfect noir poses waiting for Barbara Stanwyck to pick him up so they can plot out a bump off for their husband. Or even better, he could be waiting for Sollozzo to take him to a secret meeting where he prays Clemenza planted a gun behind the toilet. Alas, it's just a dude buying some gum.
That's Simi Valley, guys. That's what happens right now. A lot of good gum stories in
Yes.
Simi Valley.
Nothing
Sinister. But that's a great photo, though. I love the whole.
I love it. It's black and
yeah,
white, and the
black and white.
font.
The font's great. That's just down the street from you, Jetstream.
Yeah, by isolating the font, that's what's been so great. And then, so the book is set up in different areas of the city.
Yeah, it's 3 sections. The Valley, which is North Hollywood, Sherman Oaks, out to Ventura, and then the desert, which is kind of Lancaster, Mojave, Santa Clarita, and then city, which is just like Hollywood, downtown LA, parts of Santa Monica. Those are the 3 main. Look, she's just like riveted with this thing.
It's beautiful. It's
Look at that. Even that's like
there's
that's
the
just
desert.
Yeah.
I was glad you brought up like the beauty component of it, because there's something kind of disarming about taking a city that's so the reputation is wealth, and you've done something so kind of humble and human by featuring like a lower middle class like pattern in the city.
Yeah. In a city, and I mentioned before that LA is becoming gentrified, and it's sort of becoming Blade Runner if it was just built out of Amazon shipping crates. Like, it's becoming, it really is. I mean, if you look around the city, it's just very like robotic and just bland.
I know.
Yeah.
And the one thing
Boxes.
that have kind of endured are these kind of mom and pop liquor stores, and
Yeah.
they're kind of amazing,
good
and they're
point.
neon, and they just linger for some reason. They sort of make up a neighborhood. I mean, what would this area right here be without Circus Liquor down the street with
You're
that
right.
giant, beautiful sign lit up every night? I mean, how would this city, so this is almost like a document in a lot of ways, because all the Walmarts and Targets and Amazon, they're kind of putting these guys out of business. So don't be surprised if in 10 years all these things are just gone. And because
Yeah.
let's face it, Target sells really cheap booze.
Right.
They can undercut any price of these guys, and so
Yeah.
Well, that's too bad. I'm so much a part of, I live in an old neighborhood. My house is 100 years old. It's Spalding Square. And so our neighborhood, too, is so much involved. And, they're trying to take away these HPOZs so
Yeah.
that they can build, hideous condos.
Well, you live very off Sunset, right?
Right
And
off Sunset, yeah.
there's that giant massive thing they're gonna build where on that big
Remind
bend
me.
on Sunset.
Which massive, horrible?
It's this giant. There's been like community meetings and stuff about it because people don't want it, but
Nobody wants it.
it's
but
right.
then
Where,
it
it's right
gets-
where the Viper Room is. That area. There's
By
this
Fairfax.
giant like
Right.
hotel / residential / retail / and it's just hideous, and it's gonna completely change everything.
It's such a shame because they're, again, these are these beautiful landmarks, and we've seen them. Were there any that you shot that have been shown in movies again and again and again?
I would bet you anything that a lot of the stuff especially in the Valley, you would probably see like on a Starsky and Hutch episode or Chips episode. Like I guarantee you would, yeah. And I'm almost positive you can see Turner's Liquor, which is Gil Turner's Liquor,
Yeah.
in that movie Hardcore with George C. Scott. There's a scene when he's going down Sunset Boulevard. You can kind of see it.
Right.
There. Yeah.
Yeah, Turner's Liquor is probably one of the most famous, iconic
Gills,
Sunset
yeah, and it's
Boulevard
right on
liquors.
that curve, and it's beautiful. And it's one of my favorite shots too. I got it at sunset, and it's this great sky.
When you came to LA, did you ever, go to any of the great iconic? I got a little taste. I went to Chasen's.
Okay.
That was one of the greatest, craziest. That's where Elizabeth Taylor would order
Yeah.
chili from, and I went there, and it had the big red booths and the checkered tablecloths, and Jimmy Stewart was table hopping, and I was
Really?
I was in heaven.
What year is this?
This would have been the very early '90s.
Where was Chasen's? It's no longer there, right?
It's now a Bristol Farms.
Oh, I know.
and it's on Third,
I know exactly where that is.
right
Okay.
down by where Doheny. Like
I know
right by
exactly where that is,
Doheny
yeah.
and Third is, and it was incredible. And I only got to
Wow.
go there once, but that there's so few places.
Yeah.
The Dome on Sunset was another. There was a circular bar right in the front. So I
Yeah.
would seek out these places. As soon as I got here, that was all I wanted to do.
The only
was-
two that I really went to were Michelli's because that was an old like mobster
Yes.
hangout, and then of course Musso and Frank's, which is still
That's
there
still there.
thankfully, but it was one that I really sought out and went to when I first came to LA because especially Musso and Frank's because it has such a great history,
Yeah.
and those are the only two that I really sought out though.
Neon is such a. I was in Tucson, Arizona, and apparently they're famous for, their neon signs. There's one thing that we all agree
Arizona
on.
has amazing neon because old Route 66 goes through there, and they've kept the old neon up to give it that kind of throwback look, and it looks really cool.
Okay, what's this story? It says, I figured taking photos around LA, I'd eventually run into some celebs.
Just
but
read
I-
the whole thing. It's not very long.
But I didn't think it would happen outside the quiet liquor store in Victor Valley, basically just a dry lake bed. As I lined up this shot, an old hermit who looked like he just got back from Burning Man pedaled up on a bike. Howdy, you making a movie? He asked in garbled syntax. No, I'm just taking a photo. Yeah, I used to be an actor. I've been in LA long enough to know when someone volunteers to you, they're an actor. You don't engage them about their career, or you might never get away. I quietly replied, but could sense he was eager to read me his IMDb credits. Remember the movie Woodstock? Yeah, I was in it, he said with a sense of pride. You mean the documentary? Were you in a band? I quipped. No, I was just there. You see me in a few shots. He smiled, reminiscing for a brief moment, and then pedaled off into the wasteland. So the next time you watch Woodstock, as the camera pans over the millions of hippies, look for a skinny guy with long hair. That's probably him.
The skinny guy with long hair.
That's
There
very
you go.
funny.
Look for that. Yeah, look for that. Look for that. And show the picture. That's a cool picture. That's in
gorgeous.
El Mirage, which is very. It's Lancaster, and you just go
Wow.
outside the city of Lancaster. It just turns into
Show
desert.
and tell here.
Yes.
It's just I kept saying you're Roberta from Ghost World, doing like found art.
This is found
Isn't
art.
this wonderful? while the jealous feminist girl just glares at her, just so bitter that she's one-upping her.
Those kids were so good. They were the best.
We're talking about Ghost World if you guys haven't seen it. And if you haven't, you should see it. It's a
So
great movie.
good.
Yeah,
and,
everyone
and
needs to
Illeana
see.
Douglas just steals it.
A young
so good.
ScarJo. She's having a good year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of movies. We're going to get to movies
Yes.
in a second. I'm just having so much fun enjoying this book. But movie books are my favorite Christmas present, actually. Even though I've got 8,000 books.
Well,
but-
this is my Christmas present to you.
Oh,
This is all for you.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you. God, I love that.
I'll only
I
charge
love
you
it.
cost.
I think I'm going to be buying a few and giving them to people.
You should. I've had people buy like 5 or 6 at a time to give us
Yeah.
gifts. It's becoming like the thing, which is kind of
Jonesy's Liquor. What's the story
Jonesy's,
behind that? That's
it's
fun.
off the 118 freeway.
Okay.
It's a very, very small
Jonesy's?
town. That's Jonesy's. And I stood in the front yard of an apartment complex next door, and there was a family inside watching one of those what's it called, Dancing with the Stars shows, and they were laughing and having the time of their lives, and I was so envious of them. Like, imagine something like that show just making you laugh till you almost cry. I mean, I kind of envied them. So took my picture and walked away.
Oh, here's a great one. This is a Christmas story.
This is a Christmas story. Read that one if you want to.
Okay, well, and then I'll show the picture.
Show the picture first so they can get like an idea. See?
It's gorgeous. Okay.
That's Liquor Mart right by you. Actually,
Yeah, I
this
recognize
is right
that.
next to you where you live. Yeah.
That's
So
let
for
me
any
see if I can do
stalkers,
it.
so for any stalkers,
Fountain
listening,
Avenue and
Oh yeah, Liquor Mart.
Sunset,
Laurel.
Sunset
yeah.
Boulevard.
So no, it's Sunset and like Genesee probably.
Yes.
right?
Yes, Genesee. Yes,
Yep.
yeah.
I've been to that liquor
It's
store before.
literally you can like walk
Bought my
Oh.
wife prosecco.
right where the old that comic book store used to be.
Yeah, right by Meltdown.
Yeah,
Meltdown,
right, it's right
which
there.
is no longer there. And then, of course, my favorite, the Samuel French.
Yeah.
That's no. I know that one's
I
no
know.
longer
And
there.
I
Is the
had-
one in the valley still there?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't go to the valley. No, I'm kidding.
Well, yeah,
I'm
support
in the
'em.
valley.
Yes.
Well, here's a Christmas, a little Christmas story
we'll
read by
end on
Illeana
this.
Douglas.
Chuck enters Liquor Mart on a chilly Christmas Eve. He pauses to take the final chorus of Nat King Cole's The Christmas Song, which always tugs at his emotions. He smiles at a small tree set up next to the door with twinkling lights and homemade ornaments. A peaceful feeling of cozy warmth spreads over him. A man behind the counter watches It's a Wonderful Life on TV while sipping hot cocoa, and the aroma taking Chuck back to his childhood when he and his siblings sat around the fireplace drinking hot chocolate while grandmother read 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. Chuck stood behind the employee watching George congratulate Clarence on getting his wings. The bells of St. Mary ring as the credits roll. The employee turns off the TV and turns to Chuck, a glint of a tear in his eye. They exchange a genuine look of contentment and goodwill, both caught up in the grace of the human spirit. Merry Christmas, the employee says with a smile. Merry Christmas to you. Can I help you? I hope so. Do you sell those reindeer antlers you put on your car? I'm going to put my kids' school play of Little Drummer Boy, and I wanted to surprise them. We were going to drive around afterwards looking at the Christmas lights in our neighborhood. It's a family tradition. That sounds like a wonderful way to spend Christmas Eve. It is. Unfortunately, we're sold out of the reindeer antlers. They're a very festive item. Aw, that's a shame. Chuck stands there for a moment thinking, just give me a barely legal and a bottle of hand lotion. Yes, sir. He hands him the items, and Chuck leaves. And that's how you'll be spending Christmas. All right, here's your book. All right,
There
let's
it is,
talk about
people.
some movies.
All
Well,
right.
This is fantastic. Go get this book.
Oh, it's available at mattoswaltphoto.com if that's
Yes.
where you want. Maybe you have a little icon producer in the you can do like little icons.
We can throw it up there, and we'll definitely put
Yeah.
it in the podcast description as well.
Damn well better.
And
Yes.
we certainly will, Matt.
Damn well better.
Again, it's the least we can do for the
Yes.
amount you've done for our show.
I mean, eggplant, garlic, salsa. Didn't exactly get me in the door. So it's,
We
you know.
had peanut butter.
Yes.
There was peanut butter.
I do want to say, though, for our podcast listeners, the book really is gorgeous. And my wife and I are coffee table book collectors. And so
Oh.
I feel like I'm kind of snooty with coffee table books. And it's really nice. It's a great size.
Yeah.
And like Illeana mentioned, the photos are very uncorrupted. It's just like these very large, full, high-resolution photos. And they're gorgeous. It's a really cool, different look at what Los Angeles is. And definitely worth checking out.
Thank you.
Wow.
That was good. I like that.
Thank you.
I love that. Well, you should have done the
No,
forward.
I wish he was sitting here. You guys just switch places, you know?
I don't know about that.
He's the new Roberta.
Not sure how the fans would feel.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm the fun tag along in the background. They
All
let
right.
me do it.
We have a lot to. Let's talk about some movies. You ready?
Here we go.
Now, you write for a couple. You can't say which ones.
I can say I don't care.
Oh, okay.
What are they gonna do? I don't give a shit.
This day, nothing's a secret.
The VES Awards, and that's the visual effects, and the ASC Awards. That's the cinematographers.
I feel like the Critics' Choice would be the one to.
Maybe that
I'm
one too.
making a
Maybe,
joke,
maybe,
but-
yeah. Yeah. Well, this year especially.
Yeah.
Critics, that part.
But anyway, so you write material
I write the jokes and kind of structure the whole show.
Can you give us like one of the jokes?
I have not written any yet.
Oh,
year.
okay.
I've literally, I mean, they're not until like January and February, so I've not,
My joke would be, like you got to make a Clint Eastwood's like in his 90s making a movie. That'd be a good joke, right?
I do like the cinematographer awards, so it's a lot of like f-stop jokes, That's what it is. They love that stuff, Wait,
I have a cinematographer.
Hey, pull this focus, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that kind of stuff. They love.
My cinematographer joke was always, was your name as cinematographer, like Caleb Deschanel. Every movie, I do this on every movie. When there's a down point and everyone's around set, I go, it's funny. I saw Caleb Deschanel at lunch, and he was sitting, and I said, "Hey, can I sit here?" And he looked up at the light, and he said, "It'd be better for me if you could sit there."
Yeah.
There you go.
It gets a huge laugh, folks.
That's great.
On set.
Trust me, people.
Because that is a classic.
At 4 a.m. after an all-night shoot, that gets a huge laugh from the.
Better for me if you could sit there. They love it. I use it on every movie show I've ever done.
I may steal that.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe I'll steal
I
that
love it.
We honored Caleb last year. He came up and did a lifetime achievement thing. So yeah,
he is a genius, but he's very grumpy. But a lot of DPs are grumpy.
The best DPs are the grumpiest ones. Yeah.
So he's very grumpy.
Yeah.
And he did a film. One of his first movies he did was Being There. He was the DP.
No kidding! I didn't know that. Okay.
And after weeks of him being really, really grumpy,
okay,
I said, he tended to throw things and stomp and grumpy, if things didn't, go his way.
I love how he started out grumpy. Usually DPs, it takes a couple movies to fully embrace your grumpiness, but his first film, he was already grumpy.
He was just grumpy.
That's a sign of genius.
But I teased him. I said, you said you worked with my grandfather, but after working with you for a few weeks, I think you may have tried to kill him. They started in on his demise, for God's sakes. Jesus, grumpy. I mean, he would get angry. It's like that Roman Polanski thing. Why does she have that curl? It was like,
that's right.
I can't see the eye. It was like, all right, just fix it.
You'd pluck it out.
Sometimes DPs, they do forget, though, that they're working with people. They start viewing you as subjects or objects in the shot.
Yes, that's all.
And you have to remind them, I'm also a person with feelings, so please.
Yeah. No, you're not. They don't care.
Not in that moment, right?
They just want to make it to lunch. That's all they're trying to do,
We need the shot.
They had to wait for that sun to set, so they have 20 minutes, and they gotta, so don't.
I know they have the most stressful
Don't play the
job.
human card with a DP. Okay, ain't gonna work.
They're kind of directors without the humanity, right? Because a director, their job is to see the shot and the person.
Yeah.
The DP just needs to see the shot, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Depends on the director, though.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And then there's my other, story, which I've told many times about the DP Steve Fierberg when Noah Wyle was here, and the movie The Californians.
Yes.
And I came from a tradition of just always knowing what the shot was. Gus Van Sant would always be like, "Here's what the shot's going to be. You're going to do this, and then you're going to come in, and here's what the he didn't even tell you what lens it was going to be on." Oh, we're on a 20, so don't even bother crying, And no, I'm serious, So you'd be like, oh, this is useful information. But Mr. Fierberg, I would say, I'd say, Steve, can you tell me what the shot is? What do you care? You're not even in the shot. I'm like, actually, Steve, I'm in the shot. I've been in the whole movie. I don't know if you've noticed me. What do you care what the shot is? Like, well,
wow.
Yeah, he grumpy.
What an interesting answer to give somebody.
What do you care?
What do you care?
I'm like, okay, can that be a quote? That's where, as an actor, you always want a subtitle.
Yeah.
I'd like in my contract the ability to put subtitles on certain scenes.
Yeah, I know.
They made me do this scene after lunch. We had 20 minutes.
Yeah.
The DP turned to me and said, "What do you care what the shot is?" That's why I'm way off in the light. I'm not in the light.
Can I get my salad without pepper? What do you care? Well, I'm eating it, so it kind of,
Okay, let's talk about some movies.
Oh, here we go.
Here's it's just off the cuff here. my impression of 2019. See, it's 2019. Overuse of the word masterpiece. That is how many times what constitutes a masterpiece, and do we need to pull back the use of this word? I'd say yes, but what do you?
Yes,
what do you
I
guys think?
absolutely agree.
It's too
I could
much,
not
right?
agree. Yeah.
That and the G word, genius. That word that's getting used a lot this year too.
Same with the empowering. That's becoming a huge thing. Like every movie that happens to have a woman somewhere in the scene suddenly becomes an empowering, brave, thoughtful, evocative, and I'm like, okay, well. Yeah.
Well, I had put up a tweet about this, like, I said, are we overusing masterpiece? And why is it, only used in men's movies? Women's movies are clever. They're brilliant. They're clever, but they're never masterpieces. And so one guy sent me some information where he could only find 5 instances of a time when a woman's film like The Piano was called a masterpiece. But, 99% of the time it was associated with a man's film. Now, there are 3. Parasite was called a masterpiece.
Yeah.
The Irishman is called a masterpiece. And Marriage Story, also called a masterpiece.
Was that directed by a man?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so far, I've not seen all the Anus movies, so.
So far I haven't seen any of the.
But the big question is, are they masterpieces? I mean, would you look at a movie like Marriage Story and say
No,
this is
it's not
masterpiece that's going to age like Kane?
No.
Or any of these movies going to like? I think a
Right.
masterpiece is a movie that ages, that you can watch over and over again, and it's just going to age really well. It's not going to become dated.
It's almost like we shouldn't be allowed to use that term until a decade after it comes out, because you can't know
that's
now.
a good
You
point.
How do
can't
you
know
know?
if it's a masterpiece.
Movies need to it's like a soup. You got to let it stir and kind of get into the consciousness a little bit. Yeah.
I think that I mean, when I think of masterpiece, I think of the painting Starry, Starry Night. I mean, just as an example. Now, and I don't know where the phrase masterpiece came from. Maybe it comes from the painting masters.
Yeah.
And therefore something becomes a masterpiece. But I don't know when it started to get applied. Certainly, I agree.
Nowadays, that term comes from the marketing team at Paramount, who just wants to
just make it
build
up.
Oscar buzz for the movie, so they plant people to say their movie is a masterpiece, and they,
It's
looks
interest-
nice in quotes on a
exactly. It
billboard.
looks
Right.
great. It's
So
looks great. Yeah.
If a movie comes out in the summer, it's probably not going to be a masterpiece. But if it's close to Oscar time,
yeah.
it is a masterpiece.
Seems like October, November have a lot of masterpieces this
Exactly.
year. I will say, I thought
have done
Parasite.
Yeah.
It's early to know,
Yes.
but that movie kind of blew me away. Of those 3,
Yes.
that I would use the M
I
word
agree.
maybe for that one.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
it's really
agree.
good.
That movie's gonna age really well. You think? You think you'll never
It's
get
pretty
sick of it?
special. Yeah,
Okay.
it's very strange.
Okay.
And it
Fair
doesn't have
enough.
much of a precedent to me. It's very original.
Here's a good word.
Yeah.
How about profound? As opposed to masterpiece.
It's so subjective, though. I mean, what's profound to me may not be. There are people who found probably Wonder Woman the most profound one, and I'm like, but there probably are some 12-year-old girl who probably, and I'm like, hey, if that's her thing, good for her,
Yeah.
But not for me. I mean,
What about masterful?
Masterful feels a little
Masterful.
less aggressive than masterpiece.
Yeah.
Because I think you can
Yeah.
have you can master your craft, but that doesn't mean that this is the definitive.
masterpiece is it's a definitive mark on the entire film. Masterful is a way of saying there are amazing moments
Yeah.
in the
What
film.
about
There are amazing
masterpiece theater like?
masterpiece theater
It's a little
like?
different.
No, I don't.
That seems like an insult, quite frankly. I don't know if I'd want that.
You don't want that.
I think that
Okay.
Vincent Price, narrated.
Well, so let's throw. So, is Lawrence of Arabia? Is that a masterpiece?
It feels like a masterpiece to me.
feels like
I agree.
I think it's a
It
masterpiece.
was ahead of its time. The way it was filmed, the story. I mean,
The
it's-
Godfather.
Yes.
The Godfather. I would
Bridge on the River Kwai.
Yes, I
Yes.
would definitely call that a masterpiece. And that's 2 by David Lean.
And one by
Casablanca.
sure, I would.
It's one of my favorite all-time movies. I don't think I'd call
Sure.
it a masterpiece, though.
I
I think it's a classic.
yeah.
I think it's great.
No, I think it is
Chinatown.
because the dialogue in Casablanca is so good. It's brilliant.
You know
the
what?
songs and the back and forth and the it's so
I
brilliantly
would
done.
call that. I love there's masterpiece up there.
Oh, look at that.
The there are certain films that I call perfect films, and to me, Casablanca is perfect.
Okay.
Chinatown is perfect. You know,
Yeah.
there's right.
It's not a
there-
masterpiece, but it's perfect.
There are certain movies like that I would say, what's the one that I always love? Geez, I'm blanking. From Here to Eternity
Okay.
is a I think is a
You think it's
perfect film.
See,
yeah.
that's all subjective, though. I mean, I'm not going to argue. How could I argue that? You know.
Just because
But
there's nothing in
I
it.
think you're here with it, and I'm like here with it. But I'm like,
But
Who am I to
something
say,
is
you
a
know?
masterpiece, I don't know. I just think there's just a massive overuse of the
Yeah.
word, and so it loses its potency. You
Yeah.
know, and I also think that going into it, you're like, all right, this better be a masterpiece.
also, I would like, especially now, for people who call a movie a masterpiece to be able to define why they think it's a like what about this
That's a good
thing
point.
is different and so much more original than other stuff that's come out, and and what sets this apart, and what
Yes.
how is this movie going to stand the test of time, whereas others won't. That's what I'd like.
Okay, so so the other thing that I was thinking with a lot of the movies this year, too long. Most of the movies I found to be universally too long, and that had they cut 10 minutes out of the film, I think it would have been in some cases maybe an hour, but
Do you think that that's a Netflix thing? Because
I don't
Netflix
know.
is a different model than, movies that were designed to go to theaters.
Right.
You need to get people in and out. So but Netflix, it's sort of like it's made for couch potatoes. People binge Netflix. So a 3-hour movie on Netflix is not. It doesn't seem like an unheard of thing to me. I wonder if The Irishman was specifically made for theaters, if it would have been come in a lot shorter.
well,
That's my thing with Netflix.
You can fit that extra screening in there at
Yeah,
a theater.
yeah. And
It's
that's a
true.
big deal. That's a really big deal too.
Producers look at film differently now that it's being distributed differently.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, Netflix, it doesn't once they've got you, it doesn't matter how fucking long the thing is.
Roma was too long too last year.
I thought it was really long.
It's a great.
I liked it a lot,
but it would have been
was
better if it
insanely
was
long.
shorter. Yeah.
masterpiece. No,
But that movie, like you watched The Irishman, I think I turned it off halfway through.
I'm a couple
and I had
hours
things
in.
to do, and I went back and finished it.
That's a sentence I shouldn't say about a movie. I'm only a couple hours in. I still.
There's a whole generation that's coming up though that's used to like watching a movie in little because we have this whole ADD generation. They have a very finite YouTube mentality. They're not going to want to sit there so they can watch a movie for 20 minutes and then go and do something and then come back and that's
I saw The
people like you and me
Irishman.
when we go into a movie we go in cold and we sit there
Yeah,
and we don't get up and leave during it.
Well, but
that's all going away.
I was curious why Marty didn't build in an intermission, since he loves movies like Lawrence of Arabia and they have intermissions.
No theater would do that. There's no theater that's going to want to have people get up and leave halfway through.
You mean the Rockettes aren't going to come out?
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
saying that like somehow I'm living in the past?
Bela Lugosi's not going to come out and do a sketch with
I'm not going to get a show booklet at the end.
Oh my God!
But fans of Bela Lugosi, we do have an
Oh,
interview
my
with
goodness.
him from a month ago. You can
That's
listen
true.
to Bela Lugosi Jr. on our podcast.
Are
Well,
you shitting me?
Yeah, live. We did a live. I
It was
hate
great.
to derail, but live podcast a month ago with Bela Lugosi Jr. Very cool story.
Yes.
How old is Bela Lugosi Jr.?
80s.
he's in his
80s,
80s.
yeah.
And he's like an old 80s. He's not like
He's not
like Norman Lear. He's not
like Norman Lear.
He's not like Norman. He's not frisky.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But he was very sweet. We adored him.
So that was his son. What did he do for what was his life? I'm just curious what he did for a living.
All right, there's three. I didn't.
Oh, okay. We'll get back to the movie.
We'll get
thing.
back to it. Yeah.
But I
That's
just wanna
Marriage Story.
Marriage Story was
Knives
too
Out.
long. Knives Out too long. Irishman way too long. For what The Godfather accomplished. I just think.
Well,
it was,
because let's face it, this was about Jimmy Hoffa, and we know how it's going to end. We all know. There was no question when this movie started where it was going to go. Whereas Godfather, we had no clue.
It's true.
That's true.
That's a huge, huge thing, I think.
But I felt that there were points, particularly in the film Marriage Story, which I enjoyed. I just felt like that the narrative tension just completely dropped out because the movie just went on and on and on. Even though they were great, I mean, so my interesting, sort of critique of some of the films is that I've actually enjoyed a lot of the films this year more than in previous years. I think that the acting has been really great. In this particular case this year, it's been the director. Had they only cut and shaped a little more.
Marriage Story is a Netflix movie, right?
Yeah.
So is that
Yeah.
another one of those things where they can allow something to breathe a little bit because
Probably.
they don't have to worry about? Yeah, I'm telling you, there's a whole new thing coming up.
So what ends up happening with a lot of the performances is that rather than building to a very incredible tense, crescendo, like in the movie Kramer versus Kramer,
Yeah.
you get these peaks and valleys. And I'm just curious, maybe this is the new narrative, peaks and valleys. And I felt the same way with The Irishman, and I felt the same way with Knives Out, where I felt like the movie ended. Oh, there's 10 more minutes,
I wonder if Marriage Story was originally written as a TV drama, and they just nobody wanted to pick it up, so they expanded it, and so it feels like a drama where you have like these beats that crescendo, and then it stops and starts again, kind of.
Well, it could be because obviously it owes a lot to Ingmar Bergman's, Scenes from a Marriage.
I wonder.
That seems to be, the some of the idea of the breakup of the marriage.
Yeah.
One thing. Have you seen the film?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm
not
planning on
seen
seeing
it
it tonight. It drops on Netflix tonight. So
okay.
yeah.
Well,
Okay.
it's exciting. So I'll
But
ruin it.
we're here for this, though. We're not here for the friggin' Marriage Story. We're here to promote.
That's right.
You know what
You're
dropped 2 weeks ago, baby? 2,000 of these fuckers in my apartment,
Hey,
from China.
if you're bored during a movie, a nice thing
Wow.
is a coffee table book. Pick
Exactly.
that up.
That's right. You
Exactly.
can see
You
that.
can do a little line of coke off it, and then do a little, and get yourself back into the second half of your movie. That's how it works. Okay?
Other films I've seen, Brittany Runs a Marathon.
Love that movie.
I loved it too.
I think that's in my top 10.
Big
for this year.
surprise film for
Yeah.
me because I really didn't know what to expect. I thought it was going to be like a Lifetime movie. I found it to be very inspiring. I mean, I am a sucker for movies about the human condition.
Yeah.
That's my.
Okay.
I like hopeful movies. That's
Okay.
I like a movie to be a
I
little.
feel like I would like
hopeful.
that movie, but I've not seen it yet. But
very
I
funny.
feel like I would like
It's
it.
very inspiring and very surprisingly funny.
It's Jillian Bell, who's kind of an up and comer.
Yeah.
But she's mostly played broad comedy up until now. She's done a lot of bit parts and like.
Yeah, I've seen her a lot of
yeah.
stuff. She's great. She's Eastbound and Down. She's really funny. But
This
like,
is sort of her dramedy actress
Good for
moment,
her.
and
Good for her.
she's
I'm
really
glad
knocks
she
it
got
out of the
that.
park.
Yeah, she's
It's a
really
favorite for
funny.
me this year.
Okay,
I
I'm gonna
loved
check it out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check it out.
It's
Did
great.
a great a great job. And again, not again not cinematically, maybe not the prettiest film, but and
They probably it was an
comedies-
indie. They probably shot it in New York. No permits, just stealing shots where they could. So you do what you got to do.
Story
But the-
first.
But
Yeah.
the performance, all the acting in the movie, I really was taken with it. I
Okay.
just thought it was really great. And the other one is, anyone seen Booksmart?
Loved
I've
it.
not seen it.
Same kind of category.
I don't know if I'd like that. I was not a fan of what's it called the male.
Oh, Good Boys.
No, that one with Jonah Hill.
Oh, Superbad.
Yeah, I've heard it's called like the female Superbad.
It's a little more heartfelt.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
think I'm not sure if that's for me. I maybe I'll check it out, but I don't know.
It's not quite as broad as
Okay.
Superbad.
I think you might like it more because that's one of the things I liked about it was it's too nerdy. They're not getting trashed for no
Okay.
reason. They're it's sort of about these two nerdy girls and their friendship, and I thought the acting in it was really strong for these two young people.
It was, yeah. I'm a big fan of both definite up-and-comers. It's Beanie Feldstein and Caitlin Dever. The funny thing about Booksmart is the whole premise is, like Illeana mentioned, it's these two nerdy girls whose whole thing is, we worked so hard so we could get into great schools and we didn't party, but all these other kids who partied also got into great schools, so this isn't fair. So then they decide to have like their Rumspringa
Okay.
kind of night, and it's smart. It's smarter than it
Okay.
needs to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's good.
What did you think of the directing?
Yeah, I thought it was really great. It's Olivia Wilde.
I thought it was fantastic.
And that's a great example of a movie that feels like it can breathe, but also feels like it has purpose. It does both.
It had incredible momentum, and has it come out yet, or is it?
Yeah, I think you can probably get it on demand by now.
I'm sort of surprised that it has not gotten more attention.
It did not do very well. I remember it kind of tanked at the box office. I think it just missed its. It happens.
NPR loved it.
Well, that's not exactly going to get butts in the seat,
interesting thing is, and this is going to sound a little strange, coming from me, but why do we give more attention to a movie like Hustlers than we do to Booksmart?
Because J-Lo gets naked in it, and guys want to go see her get naked.
Well,
probably
that's it. That's it.
Show
there
over.
it is.
That's
it. What do you think that's,
what I think.
But did Hustlers do really well at the box office?
Yeah.
Oh, it did? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought Hustlers was kind of subversive.
But she has Jennifer Lopez has a huge following. She has a huge amount of fans. They're going to go see her on something like that. I mean, let's face it, Booksmart, it was started a couple of people who haven't done anything. It's not going to, it's a total indie.
It is.
It's not going to
I thought Hustlers was kind of subversive, though. I feel like I'm
in what way?
Well, I felt like it was more of a comment on how capitalism positions women. What's interesting is it's about men who are grifters and women who are grifters. And the men who are grifters can use the privilege of being on Wall Street and inherently use the privilege they have as men to get what they need. But women have to resort. I think to me what the movie kind of implied was that you see how each sex grifts and how they get what they need. And for women, they have to resort to options that men can inherently just avoid.
Yeah.
That's how I read it. I don't know, though. Maybe I'm just putting too much.
Did it pull it off, or was it good? Was that sort of what you had to...
I thought it kind of lost steam. I thought the beginning had more.
It was too long.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. But I did like J-Lo's performance. And people are dark horsing her for an Oscar right now, which is really interesting.
Every time I hear a review of the movie, all they talk about is how hot she looks in the dance, and I'm like, are we giving her an award because she's got a nice butt? I mean, how was her acting? How was the acting? I mean, tell me about that.
That's
part,
a good point.
Here's the scene that I found most troubling. Well, first of all, it already reminded me of a movie that was already made called Striptease.
Yeah. Oh, did it?
Yeah, Demi Moore. That the big focus of the movie was that Demi Moore went topless, and it's going to be a big deal, and
But the movie itself was terrible. I mean, the story around it was awful.
Right, but that was the big draw.
Yeah, exactly.
Was how empowering it was.
Well, Showgirls too was Elizabeth Berkley. It was the girl from Saved by the Bell getting naked.
Right.
And,
Now, who in this room believes that it's empowering for women to dance around a pole? I find that as opposed to a movie like Booksmart or Brittany Runs Marathon, which actually are incredibly empowering films.
Yeah.
That are still funny, that are still raunchy.
And the girls aren't having to debase themselves and crawl around on all fours for dollar bills from to get money.
So I found
I don't know.
that in 20, I'm like, okay, this is
interesting.
And the most troubling scene for me in the entire film is that when they get their money, right? They grift the men and they make millions. And what do they do with their money? Do they go to college? Do they take care of their kids?
Do they?
They go to a department store and they buy Louis Vuitton and Louboutin shoes, because that's what women do, because that's what our real focus is.
Really?
Yeah, look, that's what they do.
They just go and buy a bunch of
They go buy
stuff.
incredible, expensive clothing.
And that's how it ends?
Well, then there's other stuff.
But they're basically saying
they
that
drank champagne.
They did it for the materialistic,
Yeah.
And that was a shock to me. I would have gone along with the film and said, okay, well, this is sort of interesting. But that scene, for me, I was very, very disappointed. That was incredibly dated.
They just sold out these ideals of what women
because
do,
it's going back to the pretty woman thing. It's going back to what women really want is a rich guy to sweep them off their feet
and give them a bunch of cool stuff to wear so they can show off. And
Yeah.
It would have been fun if Jennifer Lopez had just gone down to a bank and opened a nice savings account. Okay, she's gonna do one good thing with her money. She's gonna like open an IRA, or she's gonna,
and
something.
sometimes in movies you get mad because you go, all right, well, is this the prerequisite scene where they have to do something nice, or they're
Yeah.
No, this movie actually could have used like give it to your school or take an art class or something.
Get
They
a
all
real,
go
get
back
a real
to
estate license, or just do something better than that. It's like it's such a cheesy, like obvious way of.
That was for me 2019 for me personally the most cringeable moment.
And for a movie that was made by a woman, written by a woman, starring
Directed
a woman,
that nobody
that's
making
what
the
it all
film.
comes down to. That was her choice for that. The last scene was, hey, let's just go bling it out and just go to nightclubs and be awesome. And like, well, that's your goal in life. Like,
I found that very troubling and off-putting. Because
The thing that was interesting about it to me, though, was we're so used to like the makeover montage scene driven by men, like in Pretty Woman. But in this example, it was all a self-sufficient. And granted, they could have been spending their money on more valuable things, but to see that movie trope, but the engine of the trope is actually money you earned. Whether or not it was well earned is the question, but I kind of feel like that's what the movie was trying to do.
But what was the purpose? Once they have all that stuff, what were they just going to exist in this world where they dress rich and they look good?
and they want more and more and more.
Right. And they can impress people and
they get greedier and greedier and greedier. There's a prolonged scene.
Just feels very narcissistic.
There is a prolonged scene in which they go to a car place and they get behind a wheel of they're stealing money, grifting people. And they're like, great, now we can buy a really expensive Cadillac.
Yeah.
And get Louis Vuitton and wear Louboutins.
They just turned into this very same kind of people they were grifting in the first place.
Exactly.
So that was
very materialistic, shallow.
Right. So I found that very jarring, and I wasn't, and it really lost me in a big way. I found that to be incredibly troubling.
Yeah, that's it. It is true. I don't know if we're supposed to root for anyone in that movie. There wasn't very many rootable characters in that movie necessarily.
No, everybody, and that, which gets to my last theme, is that most of the movies have really, really unlikable people in them. And
I have to ask you before we get, have you guys seen The Lighthouse yet?
Not yet.
I have not seen
I saw that.
What'd you think?
I thought it was amazing directing and cinematography and the way it looked, but it fell off a cliff right after like the second act ended. It was like a movie that was probably an hour long. It was probably an hour-long short story, and I've heard that the director of this movie was having a hard time with the ending.
Interesting.
And you can almost see where he just like put this like placeholder, like I'll just try this out ending, and it just sort of goes completely where you don't think it's going to go, but not necessarily in a good way.
I've heard it's kind of bonkers.
It's bonkers, but it's a very coordinated bonkers for the first like hour and a half, and you're really enjoying it. And then the last half hour, you're like, whoa.
Interesting.
It went into a place that was just weird just to be weird, and esoteric just to be esoteric, and it felt really like
a betrayal.
Clunky. It just felt clunky.
I feel that way about Magnolia. I know people love that movie, but once it starts raining frogs in that movie, that's when I feel betrayed by like the story I was given or promised.
Yeah, that was that thing I think where P.T. Anderson had that huge hit with Boogie Nights, and the studio just gave him a check and said, go make a movie. And every director has that, I think, where you have that moment where you can do anything you want to, and you wanted to make that passion project.
Right.
And, it's like Judd Apatow's This Is 40. Like, it's that kind of thing where, like, the studio just gave him money. So, it's like it's a remake of Funny People. I mean, not Funny People, but I'm Knocked Up. It's the same characters. Go make that, And they just went and made a disaster.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting. Interesting.
But it's good to see that PTA recovered. He did his one passion project, got it out of his system. Okay, now I got to start making movies again.
And I still love Magnolia up until that scene. That's what it is. It's so disappointing when you love a movie until you don't.
Yeah.
It almost feels worse, You'd almost rather the whole thing were a
It
mess.
just kind of grinds the whole movie. It's sort of I don't know. It's all these different stories that never really add up much. They just keep going and going.
I feel like that movie may have been called a masterpiece.
I'm sure it was.
I have a feeling.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Leonard Maltin saw the fog coming down and was like writing it out on his Sharpie in his.
What's so interesting is like we have critics. These you can't even name a person who's a critic. There's very few people. There's Leonard Maltin.
No.
That by name.
Ever since Roger Ebert, there's nobody.
Yeah.
Not one critic that I could even tell you by name.
No, that I wouldn't. And I don't read reviews before I see movies.
I mean, have you been to Rotten Tomatoes? There's literally 500. Each movie has like 500 reviewers.
No.
Like, who are these people? Why do you even exist? Like, what's
Yeah.
the purpose?
I don't
And
know. I feel like it's that sort of weird conspiracy.
I think
like,
you could just invent a thing like the like the Reno Times and just invent a name and just submit reviews for, and nobody would know any difference. You know.
it's an incredible, pressure, for people to be working, to be doing a movie, and it's got to do well on Rotten Tomatoes or something. God,
That is weird.
I know
Being
that's
reviewed by some guy who was probably like writing sports articles the week before and got shifted over to movies, and he owns like Porky's 1, 2, and 3, and that's all he's ever. And now he's reviewing Moonlight. It's like
one thing
I didn't get it.
I mean, God, what the hell are the tits?
All right, I want to get. Has anyone seen Richard Jewell?
Not yet.
Talk about that. I've not seen it, but I know the story enough, and I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Too long.
Jesus, it keeps
Too
going.
long. 2 hours.
But that was a
and-
theatrical release. That's not on Netflix. It's a theatrical release, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
it's
so
too long.
That
It's
goes
too
against
long.
my theory of Netflix allowing movies to be longer. Okay.
And it's a very interesting movie. There's some like, I don't know, conspiracy in there. It seems a little bit. There's
Well,
but,
Eastwood is a big Republican, and I think he was trying to do an anti-media, anti-government control thing.
yes,
And he was nailing Clinton the whole time, which is deservedly so.
yeah,
'Cause
and
they fucked that guy over.
and I got that, and so it's an odd thing. So you're watching the film, and Clint Eastwood he's a great filmmaker. So I really enjoyed the film, but I also thought again of The Irishman, where you think, well, if these people they can do any movie they want to make, and these are the people they tend to make movies about people that are extremely troubled. They're not heroic. So it's interesting that they chose to make, because what they say 80,000 times in the movie is that Richard Jewell is a hero. And so that's, one of the big emphasis of the film. And they never present, although they show the FBI as, a bunch of buffoons. And it made me curious to go back and now really look at what the actual events are, but would it have been a more interesting movie? And again, the acting is superb. So I find myself very conflicted. It's a great old-fashioned, enjoyable movie, because he's just a great filmmaker.
He is. He really is.
But I get a question like, God, of all the things that Clint Eastwood could make a movie about, what would possess him to make a film about Richard Jewell of all people, and you never really get an idea. You never really see the other side. Like, it's offhandedly, said that he was fired from a number of jobs, and at one point he impersonated a police officer. You sort of hear these things. You go, wait a minute.
That's kind of
Maybe that's why the FBI was looking at him, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
not the focus of the film. You were like, it's completely unfair. Just because he impersonated an officer, he shouldn't be the focus of this thing. So you get a very, so he is presented as an American hero. We're going to resurrect him, and maybe he is. I don't know, but I have a strange feeling that the more I'm going to, I was going back and trying to remember this, whether or not that was actually true. And would it have been a better movie if we presented that maybe he's not so perfect? Because they present these people as being perfect.
Flawless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what
These Christ-like figures.
Right,
And
like,
we're
so
all
that's-
the sinners, and everyone else around them is wronging these people.
Exactly.
And I'm like,
So the Irishman is like, yeah, we have to kill people. The strippers are like, yeah, we have to strip and rob people and get. So it's and I wonder about the people that are making these films, if they have so much money that it shifts them out of the area of real life concerns, of people that really go to Walmart every day and have blue collar jobs and can't put money on the table. I'd kind of like to have Robert De Niro's problem.
Yeah.
Like get me by the end.
Isn't like Marriage Story all taking place with like rich people who are flying, first class back and forth,
Yes.
and money is not an issue for these
He's
people.
a very successful Broadway director. She's a very successful actress. And
Now try doing a bitter divorce when you're like both having middle class jobs and a couple of kids, and you're being, that's a story that I'd want to see.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I liked about Lady Bird. So, Marriage Story is Noah Baumbach. His longtime partner's Greta Gerwig, and I haven't seen Little Women yet, but I'm very excited to see that. But however you thought about Lady Bird, I did think that movie really like leaned in and focused on what like a middle class life is like in the suburbs, which we don't know, in a weird way we don't always see it. I think we see poverty or we see wealth, but we don't always see that like middle American experience in the movies. And it's interesting.
John Hughes did that pretty well.
Yeah, you're right.
He's one of the guys that did that. But yeah, okay. I can
Well,
see that.
a movie that I've mentioned on the show before that I hope doesn't get forgotten about is Dolomite. I don't know if you saw Dolomite.
Still not seen that. I need to see it.
So good.
Yeah, I love this film,
Okay,
and I loved Eddie Murphy in the film. And
You think he's gonna
again,
get nominated?
I hope so. I hope he wins. But that's me, because I always think the Oscars it's a body of work. In my opinion, it's a body of work. Although Michael Keaton should have won. I'm still mad. That
Oh,
Michael...
for Birdman? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Did he not?
so unfair.
Who won that year?
Eddie Redmayne
Eddie
for Theory of
Redmayne.
Everything.
Oh God! Oh my God!
Yeah, that's
so
all right.
fucking boring.
Okay. I rest my
Boring movie
case.
ever. Oh, why?
They should
why?
be able to take it away from him and give it to Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
Anyway, Eddie Murphy is so good in this film. I love this film, and again, it is. I just think I loved it. I loved it. I love the audience participation of it. And again, what's interesting is in contrast to all these other movies, they never try to get away from this guy being this incredibly flawed loser. But what's so great about Eddie Murphy's performance is this idea that, like, in spite of himself, he has a dream. And he accomplishes his dream, and these are the same writers from Ed Wood, and I love Ed Wood.
Yeah. Oh, of course, yeah. Larry,
So I guess for me, maybe that's more my sweet spot
I need to see that.
of films. Is that he's just this incredibly, I heard, and I mentioned this on the show once before, but Eddie Murphy said about him, he's like a guy that shouldn't win, but ultimately does win. He's just a loser.
Yeah,
in spite of everything.
In a way, that's a little how they framed Ed Wood too. He was a guy who has no business winning anything, but they gave him his little victory in the end, even though that Plan 9 did not have a Pantages screening.
Right.
They still gave it to him just to
And I feel like that goes back to everything, that I loved about The Honeymooners.
Yeah.
Everything that I loved about Lucy was that, that the best drama, the best comedy is when people have a dream and they just never quite make it, or they get something else that they were looking for.
Yeah.
And those are my favorite kind of stories, and they always have.
I'd say Charlie
resonance.
Chaplin kind of has that. You think back to early cinema, and he was sort of the bumbling winner.
Yeah.
Who finds something else in spite of what they thought they wanted.
Remember the
always.
movie from a couple of years ago about Schmidt?
Yes.
That film had it in spades.
Yeah.
I thought.
His wife dies, and he just kind of like his entire retirement plan just goes up, and he has to just rediscover everything about himself. And it's just like
And that it's been interesting. In the old days, remember it was like always a big movie versus a small movie. And the big epic, and this year it's going to be kind of interesting. I don't know.
What did you think of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I loved it. I
thought it was too long.
I thought it was too long.
I thought it was way too long, and I had a lot of problems with it. I don't know. Tarantino has done this thing where he's trying to like rewrite history as if movies win. What if Hitler took on movies? What if the Manson family took on movies? And it's like he's doing this, and I'm just not.
What if
I'm not buying
Hollywood?
it. I'm not buying it. I'm just not.
Well,
I'm not along for
it's my favorite movie of the year. It has remained. It's
Okay.
remained my favorite movie of the year. Parasite's number 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess again because it's hopeful.
Yeah, I was stunned the way it ended. I did not see it ending the very last shot. I just did not see it ending like that. I thought I was going to do a typical, but it and at the key, the hopefulness of it was.
I also think,
me.
I mean, for me, I love, Brad Pitt has done so many movies, and it's one of the most laconic yet dead-on performances.
He's really good.
He anchors the film for me in a way that he's like a great bass player. There could be the tendency to amp up to what Leonardo DiCaprio is doing, which is, again, I'm thinking Wolf of Wall Street. And one of the issues with that was like, all right, is everybody everybody's amped up.
Yeah.
But what I loved about Brad Pitt's performance was that he just played the bass line and was so confident.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have watched him drive for 2 hours.
That was I think Brad and Leo are great actors, and they were fine in it, but I think the movie would have been much better if instead of these two guys who look like movie stars, they don't look like old, washed up. They don't. Imagine if it was played by Eric Roberts and his stunt double Mickey Rourke. Imagine that the same movie, but two guys who actually look like they were old and just clinging to the edges of of Hollywood stardom. And so I thought that the casting was it didn't work for me. I mean, Brad's supposed to be this just kind of dawdling doofus and he takes his shirt off and it's like 6-pack abs, perfect. I'm like, come on, guys. He's beating up Bruce Lee. It's like,
Well, I think it has some.
I thought it would have been a much more interesting movie if the characters were older and looked like they had been through a shitload. Like maybe imagine Nicolas Cage in the Leo role, or Don Johnson, and I'm thinking of these old guys who would have really. I don't know. I think it would have been a much more fun movie.
I'm going to make a prediction that I think it's a movie that will last. I think it's an iconic movie. I think it's I really do.
Okay.
I think it's a movie that, as Los Angeles disappears, which is much like your book. I'm bringing it back to your book.
Yeah.
That it captures the Dream Factory.
I do love the way it looked. I mean, the shots and the throwback. As I knocked my headphones off, as the throwback quality that he was able to get was amazing. I mean, the Musso and Franks and all the signage and all that.
Yeah, he really makes Los Angeles a character in the film. I also think it has that, the great. Who was here? Who was it? Dan Waters. He said, rule number one: when you make a movie, make sure the main characters have outfits that you could do at Halloween.
Oh, yeah, that was Dan Waters. That was part of the inspiration behind Heather's.
Oh, no kidding.
Was how can I make a Halloween costume?
Oh, that's right. Okay.
I will never think of anything. Isn't that great?
Because I saw a couple guys with the champion shirt and the yellow this Halloween.
Yeah.
I saw a couple guys dressed that way, so that makes sense. Yeah.
I also thought it honored, Steve McQueen and a lot
Burt
of
Reynolds and
Burt Reynolds.
You know he was supposed to be in that movie, but he passed away. Yeah.
Wow.
That was very sad. I think his role was taken by Bruce Dern?
By Bruce Dern.
Yeah.
My ineloquent take on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood personally is that I kind of liked everything but the movie. Like, I loved the dialogue. I loved the way it looked.
That's a great way of putting it.
But, like, it just felt like less than the sum of its parts to me. And then when it ended, I was like, on paper, I love this movie. The only thing I didn't like about it was the film. I don't know if that makes any sense.
The scenes stopped and started and went nowhere.
Yeah.
The ending was, I thought it was kind of ridiculous. I just did not like it at all.
Yeah.
It
didn't add up.
It did not. It wasn't what I paid to see. It was like I thought we were going to get something else. I mean, he was literally doing a shot by shot moment of how the Manson murders began, and then he just went somewhere. Let's go over here instead. Let's do this thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, all right.
Yeah. I don't know. It was a very affectionate love letter to Hollywood. For me, it didn't quite stick the landing.
Yeah. No.
But I think it's going to be a divisive year. Like, I think no matter what wins Best Picture, you're not going to have everyone be happy. And that might be,
not at all.
Because I don't think there's a universally loved film this year that I can think of.
No.
Maybe Parasite. Maybe that's the only one.
Kind of like last year. I mean, I did not like Shape of Water at all.
I didn't love it either.
I loathed it, and I was stunned that it won Best Picture.
Yeah, it was very broad.
Yeah, and I wonder if they did that because he's been such an iconic, director for so long, and they wanted to give
body
him
of work.
Yeah, it was a body of work thing,
For sure.
Maybe, but I just did not crazy about it. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last movie I was going to mention, Pain and Glory. Has anyone seen that?
Not yet.
Yes.
No, I've not.
Sorry.
Almodovar.
Ryan has seen
Ryan in
it.
the booth. I went on
Uh-oh.
a date to that movie.
Oh, you did?
loved it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I loved this film.
Yeah.
One of the best final shots of a movie I've seen that makes you rethink the whole film.
It really
okay.
does. And again, it's not getting a lot of the big
Yeah.
play, but he may, Antonio Banderas, just incredible in it. And another movie that is about movies. It's got the thread of that, and he's a film director. I mean, look at how great he
Oh
looks.
my God, look, he looks amazing.
He looks amazing. He really, I mean, what an incredible. And again, what I love about it is a very calm performance. It's very, from the minute the movie opens, it's got beautiful graphics. And I always know, do you feel, I always know within 10 seconds if I'm going to like a movie. Are you one of those people?
I can usually tell. Nowadays, I can, yeah.
I usually like, especially if I'm watching it with my mom or my friend Wayne Fetterman.
Yeah.
Wait.
And the fonts are like good on the beginning.
Good
like,
font, good
fonts,
song.
good font. I'm kind of with this thing, yeah.
The my famous story is that Wayne Fetterman and I went to the premiere of speaking of Paul Thomas Anderson, of The Master.
Yeah.
And after there was like minutes of waves, and we just looked at each other. We said, "Uh-oh,
Uh-oh.
we're in trouble." A lot of water, a lot of waves.
Yeah.
That opening
yeah.
credits. But
Ooh, boy.
this is an incredible movie that I hope that people see. And
Okay.
He did just win today. New York gave him the Best Actor. The Film Critics Circle.
Oh, they did?
Gave him Best Actor
Okay.
of the Year. So
wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen.
Is that Netflix or is that a...
maybe eventually. I mean, it's a
Okay.
foreign film, so it's
Okay,
probably like
okay,
see it
okay.
where you can.
Okay. All right.
It's going to be a strange year because with Parasite, I don't know if it's going to be up for Best Picture, or Best Foreign Film. You know, it's going
Well,
to
they
be like
changed
Roma.
that, by the way. It's now
they
called the international film category. They changed foreign film. The Oscars did.
Oh, we can't say foreign
You
anymore.
can't say the word foreign anymore. You got to say international. Otherwise, you're a horrible racist. And you're going to be blacklisted
Well,
forever.
International.
whenever everyone sees Richard Jewell, I'm just curious. Like again, if
But that's been Clinton's thing. Clint. Did I say Clinton? Clint's MO has been Sully, those Paris guys, and now that he's doing these little real life,
American Sniper.
And I will say one thing. I was very skeptical when I went to see Sully. I thought it was gonna be terrible. I loved it. I fucking love Sully.
Yeah.
It was such a good movie. The way the plane he handled the plane crash scenes from different perspectives was amazing.
He's a great filmmaker.
He is.
It's so good. The Paris movie though sucked.
It did.
It was terrible. But
What about his road trip movie?
oh, the mule.
The Mule.
Oh Jesus! What the?
I didn't see it.
Why?
It's pretty well.
Why?
He gets to make whatever movie he
Yeah.
wants.
I know, but Jesus.
I wonder
That's
again.
what
I
you
don't
wanna
read
do?
reviews. I'm curious if maybe somebody out there can tell me. In Richard Jewell, there is a number of times to the point that it's distracting. Clint Eastwood shows the rebel flag, the Southern rebel flag,
Interesting.
Oh, really?
to the point that it's distracting.
Okay, but
That
that was a
it's-
big point because the guy that actually did do the Illeana bombing was a white supremacist, guy. So maybe it was for that or.
No, it's in the FBI. Like when he
Oh,
goes
okay.
to the
Well, we'll forget that.
when he goes to the FBI, it's in the back.
It's at the Lincoln Memorial. He's holding it in this one,
When he's doing
really.
when the mother's doing a press
So-
conference.
So the Atlanta FBI officers
Yeah.
are rebel. Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
Interesting.
yeah, and we every
Wow.
time it's like, and then it cuts to
Maybe it's a big Dukes of Hazzard fans.
Sam
You ever
Rock.
think about that?
well, that was my question. Was it this kind of anti-political correctness? Because again, obviously, maybe it was there. But
Maybe it was there, and he's like, you know what? That's the way it looked in 1996. So here we go.
most
you know?
filmmakers these days are kind of sanitizing.
They are.
What
yeah,
they do,
yeah,
and they
yeah.
go, well, let's not cause some trouble. But in his case, it's like,
Can we get a black guy to play the Klansman in this one because it's just a little bit too white of my you know.
So anyway, it's sort of prominently it displayed, as I said, to the point of distraction. I got it the first time when it was very effective. There's a scene where what's her name? Kathy Bates does a press conference, and they have the flag and the rebel flag there. And I said, oh, very interesting. He chose to not shy away from, they're in Georgia. But then when they went to the FBI, it was like, okay, the camera's purposely panning to make sure we see the rebel flag on the wall of the FBI. And then I thought, okay, well, I
It's a
got
little
it. Clint.
ham-handed. It's a little forced.
Then Sam Rockwell, they have this little pep talk. He's about to do his deposition. And so then Richard Jewell, he's saying, here's what I want you to do. And every time it cuts to Sam Rockwell, now again, going back to DPs, every time the frame changes, you've got to change things in the background to make it, to get the sizing right.
Yeah.
Okay, every time Sam Rockwell's talking, no matter where he is, I see the damn rebel flag behind him. So it's clearly it was purposeful. So
Yeah.
I don't.
I like subtlety, but when I start noticing it too much, I'm like, okay,
Well, I don't know what the purpose was. The purpose is to do you believe in the rebel flag? Is that it?
Are you trying to make a statement about the kind of people that he was dealing with?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Or
trying
are
to
you
say-
making heroes of?
I don't know.
It's always that thing where like if
Call
you see
up
a
Clint, ask
swastika
him.
too many
Yeah.
times in a movie, you're like, this is an uncomfortable number of times for me to see.
Yeah.
Like I get it,
Yeah.
and it's like, is the director obsessed with it rather than
Right.
it's that interesting
Okay.
question. I don't know.
Like
I haven't seen Richard
Tarantino in
Jewell.
The Feet,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like Marty with blowing people's heads off.
Yeah, with brain
In
splatters.
slow motion.
With
Yeah,
brain
yeah.
splatter. How many brain splatters will be?
Yeah.
How many brain splatters were there in The Irishman?
There's a lot.
Really? Okay.
Well, the movie is
Now I really want to see it.
3.5
They're
hours.
better- if you're going to make a
nearly
3.5
4
hour
hours
movie,
long.
you got to give me a couple brain splatters. Okay?
You're painting
That's
houses.
the,
That's what you're doing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Painting houses. Okay.
Yeah.
What's
Wow.
funny about Marty is like was a person, who never stepped foot in a grocery store, like didn't like people, and
Yeah.
but I don't mind blowing
He
up.
wore a suit to a friggin' 4th of July party on the beach.
That's actually true.
I read that in Raging Bull. The book, the Peter Siskind book. He talks
Yeah.
about that. He would go to the beach with Spielberg and Lucas,
Yeah.
and he had to have a suit on, a 3-piece suit. He's walking around building sandcastles. with,
Shoes
a
and
3-piece suit on.
socks
Yeah.
and wouldn't want the
I
sand.
mean, what the hell? Yeah.
But when it comes to blowing people's brains, we can have hours and hours of that.
Yeah.
But so that again, so that's an interesting theme that I'm beginning, and I don't know if it's society, it's the so what society. I guess I don't know. I just found a lot of the themes of the film seem to be, well, I do a lot of terror. I mean, even in Marriage.
Oh, well, fuck it. That's kind
Right.
of the whole.
Even
Yeah.
in Marriage Story, the guy is, they're fighting about custody, and he goes, well, I thought we agreed that blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, I've become empowered now, so sorry. So a lot of times I found myself in that film, in The Irishman, and Richard Jewell, in Hustlers, going, I'm very confused. Like, am I supposed to be caring about these people? Because I don't. I don't care about any of these
There's
people.
some great movies where you don't care about the people, but there are
Like
also some terrible.
Dolomite.
There are also some terrible movies where you don't care about the people.
Dolomite is, first of all, again, I hope that Wesley Snipes is not forgotten in the Best Supporting Actor category. He gives in this, he is the definition of the great supporting character. Not Joe Pesci, who's basically a lead in the movie.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt, who's basically a lead in the film.
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes takes what is basically a small part and just it's magic. It was sheer joy watching him do his character, and I could see the joy on Eddie Murphy's face,
Yeah.
which is part of the fun of it.
Yeah.
It's just watching him. I mean, look at that.
Well, I think
Talk
Wesley
about a Halloween
Snipes has
outfit.
been in the weeds for a while with all of his tax problems, so it must have just been fun to be on a movie set and just having fun with it and just
He just
being in a
pla-
movie with a bunch of pros and just
My favorite line in the movie is when he says to Eddie Murphy, when he turns to the DP and he says, "Can we shoot this so it actually looks like he's hitting the guy?" And the DP goes, "No, we can't." And then he takes out a little flask and he just starts drinking. I mean, that's that's to me is our lives, is like the
Wow.
people who are not perfect, but yet we're rooting for them.
Right.
Yeah.
But maybe again, I'm out of step with what.
I think I can't think of a single movie this year. I think more and more with the direction filmmaking is going, you're not really going to get these movies that people universally agree on are masterpieces.
Oh,
I don't know if we have that anymore.
But you're gonna still see the word masterpiece written
everywhere.
on the poster of the movie in big letters and 35-point font. And, you know.
I'd like to see the sentence that it's drawn from, because they only usually put a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Anything but a masterpiece.
Yeah, so we don't really know. And then usually the critics like tiny.
And it's always like a newspaper you never heard of either, like in a city that you never. The Tacoma Free Press.
Yeah.
Hails this so and so as a masterpiece. Or,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, this time, all the movies, of course, it's a shame, get released today in in this one window, and so therefore you forget about.
It is weird how they do it now. It's all like the tentpole movies summer. Then once the fall hits, they start putting all the good movies out that are going to Oscar, and everything's kind of like smushed into this one area.
Yeah.
And the worst is when they start giving awards to movies that haven't even come out yet. Like the Golden Globes will announce probably, and it'll give nominations to movies that haven't even come out yet.
Yep.
You know, that's always the worst.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what's
That always frustrating. I think 1917, which is supposed to be the big one. So, and I'm curious. I'm surprised that hasn't been nominated for a bunch of stuff, even though it hasn't come out yet.
I know.
So.
Another great film, which was released, months ago, everyone's already forgotten about, is the Peter Jackson documentary about.
The one he colorized all. My dad loved it because
it's an incredible film.
Yeah, he colorized all these WW1, stuff, and it's amazing.
Wow.
It looks so good.
It's really,
Yeah.
it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, now that's going to stand the test of time. That's like a Ken Burns kind of.
Look at the picture. It was so moving.
Yeah, look at that. How do you?
It was an incredible film. I mean, down to the fact that you can see the people's teeth, their rotten teeth, and you really get a sense. For the first time, I understand what it was like to be in World War I.
Yeah.
How horrifying,
awful,
and how young they were.
Oh,
I guess that's what's you really.
That's what really brings out the faces. And,
These, so
It
that's
also
a great one
reminded
to
me
see.
of, remember back in the 90s when Ted Turner colorized all those great black and white movies like Casablanca and
Yes,
Yeah,
a couple of my
remember that?
grandfathers.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
And I remember
unfortunately.
and Ebert and Siskel and Ebert did a huge show just saying, no, stop this, stop, you must stop. And nobody bought them and they sort of went away. But it was
God.
Siskel and Ebert who really championed the
Yeah.
cause to stop Ted Turner from doing that.
That's interesting.
Because if it wasn't for them, he would have done every movie. And TCM would be all color. Like, imagine that. Imagine watching, like, Kane, and it's, like, in bright color or something. And,
Well, that would be terrible.
Yeah.
That would be terrible. And our friend from TCM, Ben Mankiewicz, did your forward.
He did. Ben is a great guy. And there's such a good, there's so many film references and a lot of old noir.
You have a favorite noir? L.A. noir?
I know L.A. Confidential is so good.
I love it.
It's
Yeah,
so
a great
good
film.
because it's so aware of it's being shot in L.A. and it has fun. Unlike a lot of old noir films that shoot in L.A., they don't really use the city as a set. They barely. I mean, Double Indemnity kind of,
Yeah.
but like L.A. Confidential knows where it is and is having fun with everything. It's almost like it's like if Tarantino did a noir about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It really is. He really have fun with that whole
I
thing.
also thought that L.A. Confidential mined a lot of real life stories. Like there was an actual madam that apparently had girls that were prostitutes that
cut to look like movie stars.
Yes,
Really?
That's
Wow.
in the.
I didn't know that.
That's
Okay.
in the David Niven book.
Can I get the girl from Charles in Charge and a and Olivia Newton-John? Thank you.
Yeah, that's
You
in
can do
his
that?
book.
Wow,
And
okay.
of the studio's weird relationship with the police and LA.
Yeah,
LA
because the police
Confidential.
because there was no mob control out here. It was all just like
Right.
an open city. So the police like, well, we'll just do it ourselves, and they
It
kind
sort of hints a little bit at Tab Hunter, that story.
Oh yeah,
of
that's right. It
exposing
does. It does.
Tab
yeah.
Hunter, and so again, I thought it borrowed from a lot of great classic
Yeah,
LA stories.
and it just had fun with it, and it just
Plus
like
Russell Crowe, my God.
oh, he's amazing.
He really came on this scene. Remember
Yeah.
the scene where he's beating the guy up? I was like, that's great. That was a great film.
I'm a huge fan of fat Russell Crowe. Like, you ever see him in The Nice Guys? He's
That's
so
a
good in
great
that movie.
Yeah.
He's just this big lumbering bully, just like walking into scenes. He's so good in that movie. Oh my, it's one of his best roles, I think.
It's a great movie.
You're
one of his
right.
best roles.
Early,
Yeah.
So
early Russell Crowe before the Gladiator.
Before The Gladiator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened to him?
I think he just got overexposed.
He
and
just
had a couple of bombs.
He just played
and then-
Roger Ailes though in the Showtime doc.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I'm getting
I've
a
heard Bombshell is going to be wonderful.
Oh, really?
That's
Okay.
the Roger Ailes biopic.
Okay,
that's
so
coming
I'm
out this year.
confused.
Okay.
So there was one.
There are two.
There are two.
Okay, there
about
are
that.
two.
There's the TV one that Showtime rushed out to try to beat Bombshell.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
And I've heard the definitive, really good one is Bombshell. That's the one we need to see
Yeah.
of the two. So
And when does
Okay.
that's coming out?
Christmas, I think. Actually, next week. I think
Yeah.
a week from tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing says Christmas to me like
Like
sexual
a Roger, like
harassment.
a Roger Ailes movie. Yeah, that's what we want to see. You know.
Merry Christmas, one and all.
That's a movie that I got invited to the premiere, and I thought, well, just for my own personal, I was like, I don't
that's right. Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know if
yeah.
I'm the arbiter of.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
great sexual harassment in this one. It's a masterpiece. There's some terrific sexual harassment in this one.
Yeah.
Maybe Matt Lauer should be.
Oh my God.
Talk critiquing.
Talk about eviscerated, man. That guy. Is,
Along with this book, has anyone else read Ronan Farrow's book?
I've heard it's really, really good.
No.
Yes.
I've heard it reads
Catch
like a
and-
thriller. Like
Catch
I've
and
heard.
Kill. It's
Catch and
fantastic.
Kill. Oh, you've read it? Okay.
Yes, I read it. I happen to know the author.
Yes.
Are you kind of? Did you mention you a little bit? Is there a little thing with you?
I might be
or-
in the sequel.
Okay. The sequel. Okay. The straight to video one that
I'm in
comes
the-
out like
I'm in the
next. You know.
sequel, Yeah. But anyway, it's a page
Okay.
turner.
It's a page turner. Okay. I,
I,
gotta check it out.
I like the holidays again. It's this time where you can laze around
Yeah.
and read books and watch
I'm
movies.
going home to Virginia to my parents' house from the 22nd to the 1st. I'm just gonna sit there and watch
Yeah.
Netflix and catch up on all my movies and
It's
read
fun.
some books.
My
I self-published this thing. I got 1,250 books sent to my apartment from China because
China!
slave labor is the best. They're so good. Look at this. It's not one mistake in this entire thing. Little nimble fingers can do it all.
There probably were some folks in. It's very good.
And
book.
I know I got
doing my
I
Jerry
got,
Lewis.
I know. Oh, you're doing. Is that Mickey Rooney from Breakfast at Tiffany's? Are you doing that? Okay.
Dana,
So I had a.
Dana Gould. Every once in a while,
Oh,
I
that's
call up
right.
Dana Gould and I go, Dana, will you do Mickey Rooney from? It's a true story.
Oh, okay.
It's a long-standing joke we have. It's our favorite bad stereotype
Yeah.
in films.
Anyway, so 1,250 of these books showed up in my apartment, and I've been mailing them out one by one because I self-published it, and it's just been it's been crazy.
What
So
about the
I've
mail?
been
Is that
nothing but
hard? What's the most challenging? Just getting the books.
the paper cuts because the book comes in its own ready-made box, and it's brilliant, but it's made so whenever I open it up, this way, it slices it's really hard cardboard here. So I have all these paper cuts and blood spurting everywhere, but it was worth it.
It was worth it.
So
You've
I have
got
about,
the book.
I have about 200 left. That's all I have left.
Wow.
I know. I sold a lot. So
Does that mean you'll have to reprint?
I don't know. Maybe. That's a lot of work, though, man. It's just
Wow.
it's nothing more depressing than having your apartment just filled with
Yeah.
books. It's really you walk home and you feel claustrophobic and you're like a hoarder or something.
Daunting.
It's it really
I don't
is.
know.
Yeah, it's
With
daunting.
my book,
So maybe, I don't know.
with my book, again, it's so mysterious. They just it's.
You don't even know. They just give you a check and go, here you go, and then
I don't even know who's making the books.
Yeah,
I try
yeah.
to find out, but it's you order books and they come and
self-publishing, man. You know everything. I mean, people.
Really?
If a book gets lost in the mail, they'll call me and hey, give me my tracking number. Then I'm the one that's
Wow.
gonna find it. I've been lucky. Only one book got lost.
Well, it's very
in the mail.
inspiring.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring, and thanks so much for coming on. And
Of
thanks
course.
for doing talking about movies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Coming up.
I
got to
go see The Irishman now. I want to see some good heads being blown off.
Yeah, some house painting.
Get ready for that. Take a.
Yeah, 3 hours, baby.
3.5.
Hey, I got a long holiday coming up, so I have some time to kill.
Yeah.
I'd be curious what you say. The final critique will come from my mother. That's
Great.
My love. My mother gives the best one-sentence reviews of movies.
And it's never a masterpiece. Is it rarely that?
Usually my mother would be like, I don't know, been there, done that, or she goes, hey, your father and I were seeing Russian films in the 50s. This is not, so
Okay.
she's got a great. I love her take on films. She was very bored by Downton Abbey.
Oh yeah.
She was like, there was too much getting ready. See, that's where I'm like, That should be on a poster. Too much getting ready.
Too much getting ready.
A masterpiece, profound. Too much getting ready.
She goes, the whole movie was about them getting ready for the visit, but by the time they get to the visit, it was over. So
Yeah.
my mother's too much getting ready
That's funny.
would have, yeah, they need to bring in somebody like her when they're screening. Anyway, we're having so much fun here. Okay, one more shot of the book.
Yeah, well, there you go. One more.
Go to your
Get that up there.
website, and you can go get this.
MattOswaltPhoto.com. Order one now. They're going. They're literally.
We covered a lot today.
We sure did.
Once they're out there, that's it.
And for those of us who are tuned into the podcast right now, because we do have a big listener-only audience, make sure you check out our YouTube video for this episode in particular, because we have the great visuals that accompany what we're saying. Matt, the book's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Very, very cool. Thank you. You're always welcome on the show. Thanks for being here.
I shall take you up on that.
Yes, we'll make sure to have more garlic eggplant dip for you.
Love of God.
I made peanut butter.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say. And next week, who do we have on next week? We're talking about Christmas movies.
Yes, I think we're going to have actually Ben Mankiewicz's colleague, Alonso Duralde. I think.
Oh.
Yes. I think he's in the slate. We may be booking him for next year as well, but we'll have a show, so make sure you tune in, and we'll be talking Christmas movies.
We're juggling a few people. We'll see some surprises.
Okay.
Anyway, as we always end our show, everyone's life is like a movie. Today it was a detour, liquor stores and detours. But this is the end of our movie. And thank you so much, Jeff. Thank you, Matt, for being here. Come back anytime. And have a great day, everyone. Love to know what you think of the movies.
Yes.
Let me know. I hope I haven't caused too much trouble.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. That's right.
Make your holidays a masterpiece.
There's nothing else.
Thanks for tuning into The Film Scene with Illeana Douglas, airing exclusively on the Popcorn Talk Network. We bring you this show for free because we're just as passionate and borderline obsessed with film as you are. And it would mean a lot if you would please subscribe to our podcast and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. It takes 5 minutes to review the show, but it helps other film junkies find the show and continue to spread a love of classic and contemporary film. For guest inquiries or live bookings, you can email me, Jeff Graham, at guests@AfterBuzzTV.com. That's GUESTS@AFTERBUZZ.com. For more incredible film content, check us out online at The Popcorn Talk, and we'll see you after the credits.